I'd like to welcome everyone to this very, very special session. We're going to be interacting with Mr. Ajay Jamuar. Just some small hygiene checks, and just before we get started, I'd like everyone to know that they can interact with us using the chat feature. They can interact with us using the Q&A feature, as well as if you want, you can raise your hand and also ask a question. So this is the way that you can interact with us. In terms of today's session, I would encourage everyone to enjoy themselves, keep your mics on mute. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce the speaker or participant in our session today. We're delighted to have with us today Mr. Ajay Jamuar, a result-oriented professional with over 22 years of experience in business growth and value creation. He's experienced with investment banking, operations management, change management, mergers and integrations, retail operations, analysis, advisory services, finance, project financing, financial control, risk management. List goes on and on and on. I don't think I can cover so many things in one breath. Mr. Jamuar currently works as the Chief Operating Officer for Commercial Banking and Corporate and Investment Banking at Wells Fargo Bank in India and in the Philippines. Prior to that, he served as the Global Head of Business Management at Corporate Services at the Deutsche Bank Group in Pune. And prior to that, he worked as a Vice President in Wachovia Bank based in Charlotte in North Carolina. Mr. Jamuar is a CFA Level 3 candidate, a member of the ICAI, ICWAI, and holds an MBA in Finance from the Texas Christian University and a Bachelor's in Commerce from Calcutta University. With that being said, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ajay Jamuar and hand over the mic to him. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Great to have you here today.
Thanks for that elaborated introduction. Absolutely fantastic to be part of this chat session. Like I said this to in my introduction as well, when I was talking to, Sudhanshu on what will be my format around there. I said, I want to keep it very conversational, right? I mean, it's not going to be a lecture. We are not in a classroom. It's about, getting to know what these programs are, what they offer, how you can benefit. Definitely, I have more than 22 years of experience in the field of, finance as well as in accounting. And I've worked internationally across different boundaries in the world. And I've seen a lot of industries and how roles are shaping up, and it's so fantastic to be able to help young people who are starting to make a choice in their career about where to go, how to do it, and it can be very confusing at times. I mean, there are so many options around there. Which one to pick is always a challenge around that. So let me quickly introduce myself. I think most of the work you have done, but after doing my CA and ICWA, I was working for MMTC Limited as a deputy manager in New Delhi, India. It's a public sector undertaking. After working for about 4 years and doing primarily accounting work, building of annual statement, dealing with chartered accountants and getting accounts certified and published around there, I wanted to take a break, and I wanted to take a break because and as I introduce myself, I'll also tell you, why I made the choices in the life that I have done and how it has paid off to me. I'm not saying that I'm probably one of the most successful, but yeah, I mean, I'm satisfied with where I am. So after working for about 4 years with MMTC Limited, I was just thinking, by doing, cost accounting and chartered accountant, I became a good accountant. I understand balance sheet, I know auditing, I know inside out, how to build a P&L and everything. But, I was just thinking around, if I have to make a career and to get into a more senior role in any organization at that point of time, I didn't even decide which, industry I will be part of. But wherever I go, I would need to understand, how different parts of an organization work. How does marketing work? How does sales work? What is operational challenges? How do people solve it? What is the role of HR? How do they do strategy, where to go, what to do, how do they do that and all that. So, so that just triggered me, then it's like, okay, what do I want to do? That's like, okay, let's just go. And I spoke to a few friends of mine, like, MBA will be a good option. In MBA, you go in there, you learn about everything inside out. At least a good program will give you a good exposure around, starting from strategy formulation to operations to marketing, sales, IT, HR, finance included, and then strategy execution as well. And then you can specialize if you want to in derivatives, in private equity, or different things around that, right? So that's when I was doing it, and when I was trying to think about where do I want to do it, and it's like, why not just do it from US? I mean, it's one of the biggest capital market around there. The infrastructure, the ability to learn and go to different corporate houses and try to learn from professional there will be immensely helpful around there. So I applied for various universities based on my GMAT score and all that, and it decided to pick up Texas Christian University because it has a couple of things that I liked about it was it's in the DFW, Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex, where at that point of time in the year 2000 when I was looking to go there, it was that DFW had the maximum number of corporate headquarters. So, ability to go and meet with professionals there was absolutely fantastic. And they had a very strong finance program as well, which is where I wanted to do MBA, but I wanted to specialize in finance. So I did my 2-year MBA program, then I graduated from there. And it was very tough time when I graduated. It was May 2002. We had 9/11 in September of 2001. So most of the employers were not hiring at that point of time. It was a very, very difficult job market. Even the Ivy League colleges where, on an average, a student will have 2.5, 3 job offers in their hand when they graduate. They were not able to even place their 100% of the class. Luckily, I mean, for me, I had a job when I graduated. I did my internship in between with Nokia, but Nokia was on a hiring freeze at that point of time. So I took a job with Texas New Mexico Power Company. It was based out of Fort Worth. End-to-end utility company, power generation, transmission, distribution, and retail sales of power. I worked there in the, again, planning and financial services kind of a part around there, where we did, forecasting, budgeting, planning, and everything, FP&A kind of a role for 3 years. And then I got an opportunity to work with Capital One. That was my first role in the financial services industry. In 2005, I joined Capital One in Richmond, Virginia. In their cross-sell division, it was primarily a credit card company at that point of time. So, and that too, they were huge in subprime. I mean, Discover Card and Capital One were the 2 major players in the subprime market. And subprime is a very, very tricky market because these are the, customer segment who don't have the very great credit score, but we do give them credit cards, and there are high charge-offs, high recoveries, but high fees as well to offset all the charge-offs around that. It's interesting, very interesting company to work for. I worked there for 1.5 years, and then I got an opportunity to lead or become the lead for the deposit finance group for Wachovia in Charlotte, North Carolina. The total portfolio size was about $450 billion. So it was retail side. That means you and I, when we bank, we have, savings account, current account, checking account, savings account, money market, CDs. And there were about 100 billion worth of small business balance around there. So I was the lead for that deposit portfolio. Started working there. In 2008, we had this whole, banking challenges where Wachovia got sold to Wells Fargo. So we became Wells Fargo then. So this is, in fact, my second inning with Wells Fargo when I joined this year. But, when Wells bought Wachovia, so I met with the head of deposit for Wells Fargo, and I told him this is the role I do. And it's like, okay, just continue, Ajay, just continue doing what you're doing because we have a similar, Wells Fargo prior to merger was a primarily West Coast bank, and Wachovia was East Coast. So it was a perfect merger for both of them. That way we covered everything. So he said, like, Ajay, I have a similar team doing the same thing for the West portfolio. You can continue to do the legacy Wachovia portfolio. So I continued to do that. In 2011, I decided to, move back to India. Just wanted to come back and spend some time with my parents. So I got a job with Deutsche Bank. Last 10 years has been with Deutsche Bank. I've done multiple roles from business management, building up the teams, from scratch in business management. I was a lead for HR team at some point of time. Then, like you said, I was the head of performance management and business management for corporate services. And lastly, I was building a center of excellence for their infrastructure finance team. Infrastructure finance is about, for Deutsche Bank globally, is about 8 billion euros kind of a P&L, so which is huge. 8 billion is a significantly large amount for any bank to have. And then, I got this opportunity to become the CEO for commercial banking and corporate investment banking for India and Philippines at Wells Fargo. So I took the job this year in February. I joined Wells Fargo, just completing my 11-month year. Next month I'll be completing my 1 full year. But again, it's been a fantastic year. It's been full of challenges. With whole of COVID thing, and when I joined in February, being a CEO means you have to make the operations run no matter what happens, right? I mean, that's the role. I have to make sure that all my operational teams are up and running. Whatever support they need, they have it. So going through second wave was not very easy for us. Especially I joined in February, and April we started to hit the second wave. April, May, June was very, very tricky because, a lot of people were getting sick and out, so who will run the operations? If I have a significant amount of absenteeism, say 15 and 20%, how do you manage that? Volumes are not going to stop. So we had, again, teams are working, stretching, doing a lot of work around there. And there were other challenges we were facing throughout the year this year with the growth, the CIB team has grown more than 2,000 or more than double from last year. So it was growth-driven strategy plus, challenges. So when I look back, it was a very challenging year, but we came on top. So it was a fantastic journey. And, the last time I was teaching at Masters Union, I was part of Deutsche Bank. And this year I'm part of Wells Fargo. So it's been a journey. It's a fantastic journey. So that's, brief, not so brief about my career journey so far.
That's great to know.
I'll just take a pause and see if there are any questions at this point of time, and then I can proceed further.
Sure. I'd like to prompt our audience as well. Like, if you have any questions which are relevant to this particular talk, please use the chat and the Q&A section. We've had some questions sent in before as well. So perhaps I could ask you, and that could prompt you onto more things. I can go ahead with one, and while the other participants can put in the questions that they want to ask. One thing I'm curious to know about, you said you made the transition to the US, and you've had the experience of working in these two different countries, India and the US. So how do you think a career in finance are there any differences in terms of, results panning out, or what are the primary differences that perhaps you've experienced being someone in both of these countries pursuing this career?
Deutsche Bank was a German-based bank and a huge presence in UK.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of exposure, working in those countries as well. So, but your question, between India and some of these developed countries. First of all, there are two things. One is accounting, one is finance, right? Accounting and finance, and this, I wanted to cover it a little bit later, but let me just cover it right now here, because when I migrated, I was doing accounting job. Through my MBA program, I became a finance professional. Now, if you look at the accounting part of it, there is a huge amount of difference. And now they're talking about, converging GAAP and international accounting standard into one. So there are a lot of, accounting standards which are being now aligned, because, US operates on GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, and the rest of the world has an international accounting standard. And they are different. First of all, their balance sheet is opposite side. We have assets on one side and liability, and they have just it on the opposite side of it. Plus the treatments are different, around there. With, Enron happening, or, major of these balance sheet related, off balance sheet related, they have designed a lot of, financial measures to, bring in transparency of balance sheet around there. So there was a lot of difference. When you look at accounting, yes, there was a lot of difference around there, but, fundamentally it doesn't change. Debit goes out, credit gets in. Golden principle of accounting remains the same, around there. So, if you understand what accounting is, you are able to get it will be a little bit challenging in the beginning. but then you settle down and you understand one. Now, finance, on the other hand, is absolutely the same nowhere where you go in the world. It's about finance, about forward. Accounting is about backward looking. You look at how you have done, what you have done, and you want to put it on a piece of paper so that it's transparent and it's easily understandable by shareholder, by financial accounting, by regulators. So it's about all your stakeholders across are able to see your statements of accounts and be able to understand and compare it with the rest of the industry, rest of the other companies as well. So, and that's why those standards are very, very important. Now, if a company operates in various parts of the globe, US counterpart will make their balance sheet as per GAAP, right? And then you have to, if you have to compare it with their counterpart sitting in Europe or in India, you have to convert that gap into international accounting standard. Then only you can compare apples to apples. So that's the challenge you face, and that's where the whole focus towards converging the gap and the IAS is coming. On the and finance is more forward-looking, right? How you give money to somebody to operate. Finance is about finance, right? Giving the money, accounting for it, looking for collaterals and things like that. That's very simple to say, but it goes way beyond it. Now, equity research also found become part of finance, right? And so there are corporate finance, there are investment banking, there are transaction banking. So in different parts of the financing world, you can have different terms, different way of doing things around there, but fundamentally it doesn't change. So guarantees, if you are in transaction banking, LCs, letter of credits, guarantees, bill discounting, that remains the same globally, no matter where you go. FX exchange rates, that, how that there is a part of inflation, there's part of real rate, there's interest rate component into it. So finance pretty much remains the same. It's just the magnitude that you start to deal with once you go to an international platform. It becomes very, very fantastic. You start to open your eyes to a lot. And being in a capitalist economy in US versus a more of a hybrid kind of, say, I will still say in India, it's a lot of difference around there. There you see all different ways of financing. Credit scores are now getting into India. It's been there in US forever. When I went there as a student, I couldn't get a loan initially, right? Because I didn't have a credit history. So I had to build credit history to get loan. If you don't have a credit history, there are only few people who are ready to give. Nobody even will give you a credit card at that point of time. You have to put, some of the banks have this international student program where it's like, okay, you put $5,000 in the bank account, we give you a credit card with 5,000 credit limit around. This is the way you start to build your credit score. So once you have had it for 2 years, then you start to build it. So that, that's the difference between the two. I mean, it just, the difference between from here to US for me was, be able to see, Forbes 500 companies, their headquarters, through my business school, I was able to get into, Bell Helicopter, Pepsi, Southwest Airlines, American Airlines, I2, Texas Utilities. There were plenty of these companies where we used to go, and through our connection through the business school and all that, it was very easy for us to get, time with senior, professionals and speak to them. How do they do their work?
Understood. I think we have some questions coming in, and they're on a certain theme of looking at work experience or looking at tech and trying to transition into finance. So perhaps to tie into those questions, I'm going to ask one of my own, and we can shift into that theme. You had mentioned initially when speaking about the pandemic that you had faced a lot of difficulties, especially as you said, the volume stayed consistent or it might have even increased. So given the fact that, the pandemic has occurred, do you think there's been an increase or a speed up in the digital revolution? Do you think there's been changes in the operating structures of finance firms? Are more functions being outsourced now? What do you think the pandemic has done to speed up the digital revolution for this sector?
I mean, that digital revolution started many years back. Pandemic and all these, latest situation just make it a bigger, better cause for us to do it, right? I mean, Robotics, fintech companies are what? I mean, fintechs have been ruling now for the last 5-6 years.
Yes.
What are these? I mean, so let me tell you where this whole tech and finance merger started to happen, and for anything. After the entire 2001 to 2010, those 8 to 10 years was very, very challenging for banks. No matter which part of the that decade you pick up, you start to see there is a huge amount of challenges banks and financial services companies going through. And that's because their cost was stable, their revenue started to flatten out, or and the costs were going. So their margins were getting squeezed around that. So in order to become more profitable, they started to move to tech. So like, okay, why can't we start to do most of these jobs through IT rather than people doing it? We still see, for last 20 years, I've been in 15, 17 years, I've been in this banking industry. Use of, brick and mortar branches have been questioned so many times. I don't remember when I went to a physically branch in the bank. Now, maintaining it, because I was part of retail bank and I ran that for 5 years, I know the cost of running a brick and mortar branch is very, very high. I can have, internet banking, and that's why, online, if you go and open a CD or fixed deposit online, you get a better interest rate than if you go in a traditional. If you look at internet only banks, especially in US, not here in India, because there's a lot of still regulations around here. But in US, you can see clear divergence between the two. There are a lot of internet only banks, and they give you much better interest rate on your deposit than a brick and mortar, just because they don't have the cost. Every branch, you have to keep 10 to 12 staff to run it. Brick and mortar, you have either you own it, so there is opportunity cost, or you pay rent or lease amount. So there's a huge cost of doing it. And slowly we are moving away from that. In US, number of branches started to come down. They charge fees for you after certain number of visits. So if you are allowed to visit once a month in a branch, if you want to visit more than one, they charge you $20 fees, depending on which bank you're talking about. So that cost pressure started to bring the IT more into the finance world.
Right.
And now with Python and all these robotics and everything, I mean, everything is moving towards building it less human oriented and more system driven around that. Now, a lot of questions that come, because I've been at a leadership role, but somebody who's starting a career, it's like, these robotics and everything will take away our job. Is it a threat? I said, like, it's a threat, but why can't you convert that into an opportunity? Start to leverage that as your strength and try to do something over and over. It will never eat away all the jobs. Right? It will never eat away. I mean, risk and control, you can't do whatever you want to do with IT, but the risk and control roles has to be there in the back. There still has to be a strategy. Computers can't drive your strategy. Right? There will still be operational challenges, that you won't be able to do logical statements, to create programs to do all the things with the bank. Operations. Yes, it will eat away some of those mundane job of, data entry, transaction processing, and all those which are, can easily be done it, and banks will do it. I mean, there's no denying we will do it. Because we have to cut down on cost. But then there is still a lot of opportunities around there to do a lot of. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we have just started the journey. I mean, IT has a bigger role to play, much, much bigger role. And then I'll give you a quick stat around there. So we have about, say, 35,000 people working for Wells Fargo in India and Philippines. Out of that, about 17,000 are IT people, about 50%. And there's a lot of things that are going on from development point of view, where we want to bring IT to help out with, and that just to make ourselves more efficient around it.
Understood. I mean, this is a perfect transition into talking about Masters Union, because as you mentioned, the inclusion of IT, especially in a field like finance, that's growing even more important. And as everyone in the audience hopefully knows, Masters Union in our curriculum, it stands at the edge of both and the intersection of both finance and technology, business in general and technology. So kind of looping back to more student driven questions, maybe I might ask you in 2021 or 2022, in a couple of days, according to you, what would be some of the core skills that a student or a young student entering the industry, finance industry, needs to focus on or needs to look at?
The core school is, there are a lot of things I can talk about around that, right? I mean, nowadays when we are hiring, especially if you look at, the first cohort of master union getting placed at a 29-30 lakh on an average salary with, highest going up to about 45 lakh. When a company pays you that amount of money, there's a lot of expectations, right? I mean, personally, if you ask me, like if somebody wants to hire somebody for say 20 lakh rupees, I want to see at least 40 to 60 lakh worth of benefit getting out of that person. That's simple business, right? I mean, any company is a businessman, right? If I'm investing my capital, I need return. So if I'm paying 30 lakh rupees to somebody, there's expectation that that person won't be just doing a data entry job for me. Right? That person needs to know his subject around that. What are the current challenges? Where the industry will be 5 to 10 years. I mean, if somebody talks about 2022, I'm saying bullshit. I don't care about 20. We are already there. You can't change much between now and in 2022 to become, efficient around that. Have a vision what the world will look like 5 years from now and start working on it today. If you're not doing it, you will find yourself one of the, backbenchers when it comes to 5 years from now. In 2027 is what banking and other space will look like. You have to prepare for yourself for that. Otherwise, you're far behind. So when somebody is entering into that, first they need to understand, especially somebody who's coming out of a program like MBA, we expect, that the person should be able to make connections between what is IT, what is finance, what is marketing, what is sales. Why is marketing and sales different? Why is finance and accounting is different? How does all that play? So even if suppose you join as a project manager in ITT, right? Now you develop a program, you want to present it to a senior stakeholders around that, which consists of all different parts of the company. Because when you create a program, it will touch your strategy team, it will touch your finance team, it will touch your operations team, it will touch your finance team, it will touch everything. So in order for you to create a good business case, which covers and answers all the questions around there, you need to be able to understand how does my program will impact the P&L of the bank. How much of cost of capital there be to fund this project. It's not just your project. At any given point of time, what is my bottleneck? Amount of funding. I have 10 projects, but I only have funding to fund 2 of those projects. Which are those 2 projects? How do you do cost benefit analysis? How do you show that your IRR or your NPV is the highest? When it comes to, and it caters for regulatory and it caters for customer satisfaction and all this. So all that part needs to come together for a good business case. Your program could be brilliant. I'm not denying that. As a tech guy, you can make a very solid program. But if you're not able to align that program with the broader strategy of the company, you will not be able to sell that program to a senior manager. That's simple as that.
I 100% agree. I think at Masters Union, the difference I've seen, especially for engineers who are coming in with data science backgrounds, they're initially, their data science classes end at checking how accurate their model is. But that accuracy, those insights, they're not translated on how they can be communicated to various stakeholders or generating business intelligence out of the same. So you're 100% right on making a use case out of the insights that an engineer is drawing and being able to give business intelligence through it.
Absolutely. And how do you know that there is not a competing program like yours being pitched at the same time? We ran this business competition across all IIMs and ISB, and we give them a theme, right? And the teams from all these big university MBA programs, they participate, and they come out with their solution, and we pick this the best solution, and we fund it even and implement it within Wells Fargo. So, and there are a lot of companies who try to do that, and that's why everybody is working on the same topic, right? Everybody is trying to solve the same problem. I have the same common problem statement around that I want to fix this. Here is the situation, here is the thing, and I want to fix it. Now everybody works for it. There is only one champion that comes on. But everybody is there. So similar to you, when you are preparing your program, how do you not know that there are multiple other people doing the same thing? And if they come up that their program can run at half of your capital requirement, suppose you say, I need $100,000 to build this program. Somebody comes and tells me I can do the same thing for 50,000. It's a no-brainer, right? Or the person say, look, yes, I can build the same program with same 100,000, but it aligns better with your strategy. It enhances your customer experience. It covers up the holes that regulatory and compliance fits in. Then I have to make a choice. It's become very subjective because financially I can't make a decision. They are both doing the same thing. That's like where are my other benefit lies. So coming out of MBA program where I felt very strong, and that's the reason why I'm doing a chief operating officer role. I'm not a hardcore finance person in the bank. Is only because I was able to connect the dots between sales, marketing, IT, operations, HR, strategy, everything, and be able to create presentations and decks and project reports, which covers all the aspects around it, and be able to answer those questions.
I guess a holistic understanding is something that's absolutely necessary.
Otherwise, you don't need to come into MBA program. You want to come to MBA program because you want to bring all those aspects of running a business together and be able to understand. You may not get expert in marketing and sales. I don't want to be. I have a strength in finance and accounting, which I have built across my career. I don't want to move away from that. At core, I'm still a good finance and accounting person. But you complement that by adding in MBA program where you get better than a traditional CA is by bringing in these aspects that, look, I know what marketing is. I did not understand ABC of marketing. I didn't know what STP mean. Everybody used to talk about STP. So like when I get into the marketing program, that's when I said like, okay, segmenting, targeting, and positioning of your product. And it just stuck with me. And I still, when I think of something, I was like, which segment I want to hit. You can take your entire population, take different demographics, they have different things, and then you say like, okay, I want to target my product for these 25 to 35 years stay-at-home moms only. That's your segment. Then how do you want to position your product? How do you want to target this? That's STP. That marketing concept only I got it. CA was zero for me at that point in time. And that's when I started to learn the benefit of an MBA program, that shit, I can sit with marketing folks and I can talk in their language. That was eye-opener for me. Sales tactics, sales strategy is around there, how to increase sales, what pricing plays a role in there. Or, do you want to be a low cost or a differentiated service provider, Porter's basic fundamental. You want to have a competitive advantage by having low price, or you want to be a Maruti, or you want to be a BMW or a Mercedes.
Right.
So you start to understand what's happening out there.
Understood. Moving onward, a lot of our questions are coming that they're quite outcome oriented. People want a career in finance, or investment banking is a popular term that's entered here. I'd like to ask you perhaps one question with two use cases and take your opinions on this. So since Masters Union is a business and tech program and technology and business management, I'd like to get your opinion on someone from an engineering or tech background entering and getting into this ecosystem of both management and tech, as compared to someone from a business background, someone who might have done an economics honors or a BBA or a BCom honors, entering the same system. So given the Masters Union experience, how would you suggest someone guide themselves from both of these backgrounds to have these desired outcomes that they want of being an investment banker or making it big in the field of finance?
The one good thing about these MBA programs, and it's pretty much applicable globally, is that this is a master's program. First of all, let's understand this is not a simple bachelor's program. You're getting into a master's program. We look for people who have done something in their life already and have experience working in some field around that, right? And the average age will be anywhere around 26, 28, 30 years of just take guess. It should be falling between 25 and 30. That means you have worked for at least 2 to 5 years or something. There will always be some fresh graduates coming into the program as well. I don't deny that. But the reason is because you should be able to make a decision where you want to make your career. If you want to make a career shift, I'm not saying that, I can tell you this, it was eye opener for me as well. Most of the successful bank CEOs are engineers with MBA degree. You can take the list of all the big CEOs and see their qualifications. You'll not find, more than 5 or 7% of accountant making it to that CEO cabin around that. It's engineers with MBA kind of a program that gets into, because it may be an industry of finance, but still marketing and sales will rule it. You still have to generate customers. You have to bring in customers. You have to take greater share of wallet around there. So no matter which, now coming back to, how you want to make it big, now that choice, the finance is a very, very vast field, guys. I can tell you, you start with corporate finance by doing plain budgeting, forecasting role. Then you can go into retail banking, which is dealing with, the SDFCs and ICICIs of the world, right? Where they take deposit and give loans and different facilities to our retail customer. Then you change your segment, then you get into, business commercial banking, which is, transaction banking, like LCs, guarantees, big projects that they want to, project financing around there. They want big funding, in export and import, you need a whole lot of funding around there. So you kind of do it. And once, suppose you're dealing with, what is LC? It's a letter of credit. That means I give you a letter and guarantee some kind of a assurance that will fund you for that. What is guarantee? Like if I'm dealing with a third party in, say, Germany, and so like Germany people say, like, I don't know who Ajay Jamuar is. So then my bank will go through their bank and say, like, we provide you a guarantee that if you export and let Ajay if he doesn't pay, I guarantee that I'll pay on his behalf. So that's guarantee. So that's commercial banking, trades, import, export, all these manufacturing activities and everything, project financing, these are all there. Then you get into the investment finance world, which is, mergers, acquisitions, equities, valuations, forex trading, gold bullion trading, all these starts to get into the investment banking. And corporate investment banking is a huge field. Now, if you say, I want to get into investment bank, you got to be more specific around that. So do the research. I would say, like, if somebody wants to do it, go read through the websites of lots of these banks and financial services. Like Goldman Sachs, they have barely any presence in retail. They're only doing CIB, investment banking world. They're primarily into investment banking. Morgan Stanley, some of these are very, very small in retail bank, and they're huge in investment banking as compared to some of the other banks who are huge in retail and very, marginally present in the investment banking space. So you've got to, if you want to bring in, I would say, like, go through these different banks, go to their website, try to see where all they operate, what are their core areas of strength, what customers they have, what kind of, work they do, and then start to pick up around there, what you want to do. Even say, if I say investment banking, right? Equities is one market. Fixed income is another market, which is debt. Then you have foreign exchange in there. So, then you have derivatives around that. So within investment banking, you have multiple lines of business. And each one of them is ocean on itself. Let's go into equity. Now, equity, you have small cap, mid cap, large cap. You have buy side, you have sell side, you have wealth management. So once you start to decipher and get deeper and deeper, you start to understand how deep and wide this world is. Finance. So you just making a generic statement that I want to get into investment banking role is a little bit more, difficult to answer, because you have to start to make your career choice by getting an understanding what all makes this IB, which is your area of interest. Somebody who's very good in analyzing a balance sheet and everything, equity research and those kind of roles are fine. If you have interest in understanding, you have strong economics background, you come from, then foreign exchange and all these international, currency dealing and all that becomes because you understand the real interest rate, inflation, nominal interest rate, how does that impact, what moves, the foreign exchange, why is, dollar strong against all the other currencies this year versus INR. They're not that strong versus INR because Indian economy has been growing like crazy. So the pressure is out there, right? Versus all the other economies are struggling. So dollar is a bit strong against all other currency, but they're not as strong. They are strong, but not as strong as other currency than with INR. So then you get into that. So, depending upon which strength you bring in, you pick your choice on what you want to do, and then accordingly proceed around that.
Got it.
Because when you get into a interview with a very seasoned professional, you know, you need to make sure that you make an impression that yes, you know about that, what you're talking about. At times I interview a lot of people day in and day out around there. Sometimes I just get surprised at how unprepared they come and speak
Right.
their
Yeah.
interview. When we used to go to, in my earlier time, now our job change happens because of networking, and my previous boss moved in there. He wants to bring me into the same thing, so it kind of just goes around there. But initial part of my career, when I was interviewing for, say, when I did my Nokia interview as an internship, I was only, I had not even completed 1 year in United States at that point of time. My program started in August, and Nokia people for internship started to come in December, January, right? But because internship starts in May after my second semester. So I started to study about Nokia from day one, because I said, like, I need to do, at that point of time, Nokia was very big, they were ruling the cell phone market.
Yeah.
And being a US headquartered in Irving, which was 30 miles from where I was living and studying, I just wanted to go and work for Nokia. So I did so much research when the person that came from Nokia, and I was able to tell them, what's happening with Nokia in the recent 30 days. They were just like, Ajay, most of our employees within Nokia don't know what you're telling me right now. So they were so impressed that I was able to cruise into my internship at that time. No question asked around that. So, sometimes I get so, that people just come, so they take it very casually, that I'm just going to go and talk about this role. They don't even read the job description properly before they come into it.
Yeah.
So there has to be, and that's where probably Masters Union does a good job, and most of these MBA programs, to prepare their candidates. How do you want to go for an interview process?
Yes.
You have to impress your, when first, what we tell, now somebody, I mentor a lot of people around there, and it's like, how do we go for interview? So like, look, first 120 to 180 seconds, 2 to 3 minutes of interview is very, very crucial. The person interviewing you will make his 50 to 75% of the decision in the first 3 minutes of how you're speaking, what you're speaking about. Your introduction needs to be so crisp that it impresses him, and then what you tell about him in the next is, then from there it's all more of a conversation.
Right. I completely agree. It's very hard to make a second good first impression.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, and that's why I say, like, if you want to do it, move into that career, start reading, pick up 2 or 3 companies around that. So if you want to get into IB, pick up the 2 or 3 big IB companies, go into their website. There's plenty of information. Plenty of information. There are a lot of free research reports available on, Google. As when we were getting into MBA program, internet was not big. In India, I was in, think of 2000, in the year 2000, we had no absolutely, internet or anything available easily to do all this research. We used to do, through friends, through networks, through, my college friend, my school friends who are already in US, we used to talk to them and try to, no cell phone, we used to talk to them through the, wired phone and all that. Now it's so much easier, there's so much information. So it's, kids today are more smarter because they have access to information which we didn't have when we were graduating, when we were getting into our career. So, leverage the power of internet. Google is there, and try to do research and understand, what are all part of, where does your interest lie, and start to do research, so that once you get to that, interview table, you should be able to impress that person that, I know so much about this area.
100%. I completely agree. There might be more information out there for kids to have access to, but what you're talking about is that proactivity, that drive, that preparedness, that work needs to be put in by the people before they get into that interview stage. So that's great.
Half of the candidates, if they come, it's like, who's the CEO of Wells Fargo? They will not be able to tell me that who's the CEO of Wells Fargo. I said, you're coming for an interview, right? You're coming to become a part of an organization. We treat it as a family. If you're not prepared, then sorry, boss. If you're not that serious about getting the job, how serious would be in discharging your duties going forward? I don't ask that question, but I can tell you, if I ask blindly, how many people know who's the CFO and the CEO of the company, I know, half of the people will not be able to answer my question.
That's correct. I think, that's a theme that you pointed out, correct. That was at Masters Union. We also look at preparing our students so well that they know equally, if not more, than the HR that's interviewing them in the interview. They want to be at that stage where you were with Nokia.
And absolutely, it's like, my career services people in TCU did a fantastic job. We used to have, mandatory 1 hour career service coaching center every week from the day we started my MBA program. They started to prepare us, because look, in my 60, it was a small 60 member program, right? It was a block program of 2 years. You start with 60 people, you end with 60 people kind of getting there. We had people from 36 different countries in that 60 program. From Nigeria to France to Germany to Russia to South America to China, Japan, Korea, everywhere. And not everybody is strong in English. So they will have Center for Productive Communication as well. So those they will talk to us, they will understand what are the needs, where I need strength, and they will work with the communication center to say like, okay, this guy needs help in this area. So they will program it, and then so all that becomes part of. That's what I love about an MBA program, that they prepare you for a world out there where when you step out of the MBA program once you graduate, you are a complete professional and you will be able to do a lot of job around that. Cultures are so different.
Yes.
Your hand gestures might mean something else in US versus in Italy. And those are the things you have to understand, arm's distance, how closer do you want to get to somebody talking, or how far you want to stay away, how do you start conversation. Like I will tell you, US is a very, you start a meeting, you talk on a Monday morning, if you have a Monday morning meeting, for the first 10 minutes, they will talk about NFL. National for which team won, why did they won, the first 10 minutes. You are I have a great opportunity that I worked for a German bank for 10 years. In Germany, everything starts on time, ends on time, no bullshit, no crap. They straight away get into the point around it. So, understanding the culture, be able to mold yourself when you're talking to somebody in that frame. These are all things you start to pick up when you do some of these great programs.
Understood. One more question, sir. Maybe if I might ask you about your Masters Union teaching experience, if there are anything that stand out in terms of how you interacted with the students or the quality of students, or maybe just the vibe of the classroom, given the fact that it's sort of contemporary education that we're trying to promote.
I stepped into the world of teaching, if I have to compare with most of the people very recently, last 3-4 years, I'm teaching a program in NM and IMS, Mumbai, and then I also taught the first cohort at Masters Union last year. So I took the fundamentals of corporate finance. That was the course I took, and I think the good thing was that Masters Union let me decide, how I want to design the course, what I want to teach, and I was able to kind of bring in the attention around that. Now, it was a 60-member team, 64 students in the class, and the good thing was we drove a lot of my course was driven a lot with the business case. Right. We picked up business case from Harvard. We picked up, from these business schools, and we started to do the theory and then start to bring in the, business case. And then I layered on my practical experience of working of 20 years in the corporate world on how these three things tie together. Book will tell you something. Full thought business case will then tell you something, and then how really it works in a boardroom around it. So bringing those three, it was great that I'll tell you, I expected some non-finance people to attend and take this class, because this is very, very fundamental, and everybody needs to know these basics. What is discounting factor, how do you calculate NPV, how do you calculate IRR, what is budgeting, capital budgeting, how do you fund your project, what are the basics of mergers and acquisition and all that. So I knew that a non-finance person will take interest, but I was very, very surprised when all these CA and CFAs, they used to continuously come into my class. I mean, they could have easily skipped that class and nothing would have lost. They know this thing day in and day out because they have done it in their CA program a lot and worked on it. But the good thing was that 9 o'clock in the morning and going through all those crazy cold mornings in Gurgaon, I used to take my classes at 9 a.m. in the morning, and everybody will be there. And then we start the thing, and there was a lot of interaction around. There was a lot of questions around, how many times Reliance shares has split. What are a good investment today? We'll move from topic to topic. We'll get into the very current topics. Why is Vodafone Idea should we buy a stock of Vodafone Idea or not? I will take the current example and explain why it is happening, what it is. So be able to connect all these and bring it to the table. I think that's what kept, students keep coming into my class and, asking the questions. And like I said, today I was given an option. Do you want to have a presentation or you want to keep it conversational? I said like, no, I don't believe into, too much of PowerPoint. I would like to face and talk about, in a more of a conversational manner rather. Because if I put a slide, you won't see me talking and all that. Your focus will be reading, every single word on the slide. And that will take away, 80% of what I'm talking to you about. Exactly.
100%. I think that, this is way more interactive, and having you speak to us this way, I think it's, and just to kind of compound on the fact that you mentioned the CA and CFA students are coming back, they might have had more theoretical or classroom experiences, but to have someone who can connect the dots, as you correctly pointed out, between what actually happens in a boardroom versus what's in the book, I guess that's the magical factor that they're looking for.
I was also their mentor for the MUIF. Investment fund, because I was part of my investment fund in my MBA program as well.
Right.
So, the Varun and, Prachi and all those people, when they started, we were designing, they designed the first investment fund. And it's not very, very easy to, build, what is the core of my fund? What do I want to drive it? How do I want, where do the risk lies? How do we cover for that? How do we start getting the funding? Where do you want to invest? To make sure that we continue. It's not about just getting in first-hand exposure. So it was a fantastic journey for me because I taught them corporate finance, and then I helped them also set up the, most of the work was done by the guys. I mean, kudos to them that they put so much hard work. I know that they were working, they will be doing their work till 4 a.m. in the morning and 9 a.m. they're in my class. I mean, that was really out of this world. I mean, I really appreciated that batch. That guy, then, first cohort is always very challenging. They don't know what to expect. And even, the MU was also doing it for the first time. There were a lot of staff who were doing it for the first time. So, yes, there was breaks, there were, disruptions around there, but, kids were very, very dedicated. And it's like, no, we have to come out on the top of it. And that's the reason why they are all working in top organizations today, is because they work hard. I know that, they will say like, sorry, sir, that guy was working till 4 a.m. in the morning, he'll be joining 30 minutes late. I said, absolutely fine. I know what your guys are going through. Very fast-paced program, crunched into a very short time frame. And there's a lot to do. And so the hard work that they put together, especially the MUIF program is, I'm really, really happy about the way it has taken off. The returns in the first 9 months, I think we kicked off in February. The first trade was made in the month of February and March, around there. And then since then, we have given tremendous amount of return to the fund. It's absolutely fantastic around the way they have worked around there.
I think the IRR is, as you correctly mentioned, about 24%.
I know. So it's just fantastic around the way they have very disciplined approach and, going through that whole thing and setting it up, when Varun and I and others were working on that thing, as like, look, guys, not too many people have the opportunity to set the tone of it. You have the opportunity to set something up with the funding that, Pratham is trying to get to you. And that 5 crore is not a small sum of money by any means to give, a bunch of students who don't have, practical experience of dealing. They can easily lose a lot of funds. So, having that confidence, as I was like, look, they are trusting you and you have the opportunity to set the tone for it. And if you come out on the other side of it, at the top of it, it'll be fantastic. You look back and say like, what a fantastic job out there. So, they put a lot of hard work, a lot of research around there before any investment, going through the rigor of it and then coming out of it was fantastic. So, absolutely great.
I think some common themes that I can pick out from, this answer and previous answers is obviously the drive and motivation for an interview, as well as the students, in setting up both or being part of both academic engagements and co-curricular engagements as
Yeah.
part of the MUIF and the Venture Initiation project that Masters Union also runs. So having this kind of duality of both learning concepts in the classroom and then being able to apply them right there and then in your college, it's pretty
And then
rare.
the CXO Connect session, don't miss on that.
Yes.
And those are
Yes.
fantastic. Some of the people that come to you from, Morgan Stanley and BCG and McKinsey's of the world, Hero, those people, it's not easy to get access to their calendar, boss. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
They come to you and give you that 1 hour, take, squeeze every single, juice out of them when they're with you. You won't get those life lessons anywhere else. Nowhere else you'll get it. Those minutes that you get with those CXO Connect session is fantastic. I would not miss it for a beat. All CXO session, it's very, very important to listen to them. They tell you a lot. They tell you a lot.
But I think on the theme of life lessons, I think today has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for the past hour of great knowledge, and you walked us through your journey as well. I can see some great comments coming in from on our chat as well. So just to kind of wind things up, if there's perhaps any last thoughts or last comments that you'd like to share with the audience, and we can move towards closing the session.
My only comment is, guys, take it very, very seriously. This is what I told the first quad when I was taking. You're taking 15 to 18 months of your very, very critical career stage. You might, while you are in a program, your colleagues, your friends might, go ahead and do a lot of things. So these 18 months are very crucial for you. Whatever extra you want to do, you'll have plenty of time in your career to do it later on. But right now, focus and get, all the benefits of the program that you can. Every course is very carefully designed and put in place. So don't think that I don't want to use it or I don't want to do that. Make sure that you make the right choice, because you'll not get this opportunity again. This time is a factor. Time is something that will never come back to you. Once it's lost, it's lost. So make sure that you leverage this time to the best of your benefit. Apply that, when you come out of the, classroom, go back, ponder on it, go back, look at your notes, what you learned today. If you have questions, come back to your professors, ask them, clarify them. How you want to leverage that in your future will be very, very important. So my sincere guidance is do a lot of research, start to make up of your mind. You're not kids anymore. You are an adult and you know about what career choices you have to make. If you have an engineer mindset, you can't be a doctor. As simple as that. I teach that to my 13-year-old daughter. Like, look, if you are very strong in maths, don't think about doing something else, because that will not come to you naturally. So if you have an inclination and bring the passion about it, and passion will show up by doing the research around it. If you want to be an investment banker, absolutely. There's no boundaries. Nobody says that a BA, a Bachelor of Arts cannot become an investment banker. No books tells you that you can't do. An engineer cannot be an investment banker, or a doctor cannot be an investment banker. I've seen a lot of other, people coming from different professions and making it huge in the field of investment banking. All it needs is the drive, your passion to do it, and relentless amount of hours and studying that it requires to get there. It will not be easy if you want to change career, but it can be done with the hard work and the passion behind it.
Great. I think on that theme of working hard, on the theme of being driven, on the theme of being passionate, I'd like to thank you so much for spending the last hour with us and our audience over here. I think it's been very, very insightful. And as the audience also says, I'd like to thank you very, very much for this session. So thank you, Mr. Jamuar, for joining us today. And to everyone in the audience, I hope most of your questions were answered. If there's anything else that's left over or anything that's process related, feel free to email Masters Union and we'll answer that for you. Thanks once again, Mr. Jamuar. It was a great, great time spending it with you.
Thank you, guys, and I'm glad to be part of it. And being a founding member of this, I've always had a vested interest in the program. So anytime any help is required, I'm more than happy to come and help you guys out. And best of luck to the second quad. Those who are already part of the program or those who want to become part of this program. But it's a fantastic program. It's very unique. It's different the way it's being set it up. So, good luck with it. Keep hard and you will see the results coming out.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir.